In July 2016, the Bertelsmann Stiftung released its Sustainable Development Goals Index. I caught up with project manager Christian Kroll in New York City. And Dr. Kroll, you are really the architect of this project. Can you give us an overview of what you set out to accomplish here and why you thought it was important?
Well, last year, world leaders came together here in New York to devise a plan for the next 15 years. What does the world look like by 2030? And they came up with 17 goals, the Sustainable Development Goals. And we performed a stress test last year, how countries are stacking up. And we did so for the rich countries because that was the first time that they were also involved in such an exercise. The predecessors of the SDGs were the Millennium Development Goals from 2000 to 2015, and they were only applicable to the developing countries. But this time, the SDGs are a universal agenda encompassing all parts and corners of the globe. So, because the rich countries were new to this, we performed this stress test last year, which now, with the help of the Sustainable Development Solutions Network, is being expanded to 149 countries, which we're going to assess annually for the next 3 years in order to get started on the SDGs.
Now, I think a question a lot of people have about these indices is about methodology. Can you talk a little bit about how this was put together?
So we assess 149 countries in terms of these 17 different sustainable development goals. And these goals range from poverty eradication, hunger, obesity, malnutrition, to health, education, global partnership, climate change. So it's a whole array of topics. And we were lucky enough to draw on the immense network of the Sustainable Development Solutions Network in getting input through consultations, so that we have experts from many fields contributing in order to select the indicators that we now have in the study.
Now, I imagine one of the major challenges with this kind of project is you have to compare very different countries, you say a Turkey to a Brazil. How do you address that challenge in this type of index?
It is indeed challenging to compare countries so different, such as Sweden on the one hand, or sub-Saharan African countries with particular and very different challenges. So for the rich countries, the challenge is more to find sustainable patterns of consumption and production and to contribute to the global partnership in terms of official development assistance. Whereas in some developing countries, it's about creating basic goods and supplying basic goods to people like education and healthcare. But it is important that we assess the whole set of 149 countries against these SDGs because they are a universal agenda which involve both rich countries and poor countries.
Now, tonight we will be rolling out some of the new results, but you, I imagine, are already privy to these results. Is there anything in particular you found that was interesting or stood out to you?
What does stand out, and I think what is still missing in the public discourse a lot on these things, is that economic progress is not everything. So we have a lot of countries in there, like the United States, for example, that are doing very well in economic terms. They have, good GDP levels. There is a lot of wealth in those countries, but they fare a lot worse in terms of social policies and also in terms of environmental sustainability. So this whole mix of 3 dimensions of sustainable development: economic, social, and environmental, where countries need to do well in order to be ranked high in the SDG index.
Now, you'll see this argument sometimes that what's really important in development is growing the pie, and then we worry how to cut it up later. This project suggests that's not the case, that it needs to be sustainable. Why is that important? Why can't you just have the growth? Why is the other part just as important?
It is important to continue to focus for the rich countries on the eradication of extreme poverty in developing regions. But at the same time, that is not going to be enough. At the same time, they will have to make their own way of living and the way they outline the economic and social model more sustainable and more socially just.
One thing that your project produces is a tremendous wealth of data how countries are doing, what they're doing right and what they could improve on. What do you expect to come from this? I mean, do you give policy recommendations, or is it to kind of highlight where improvements could be? What comes next for this project and this tremendous amount of data you've built?
Anyone who's ever managed a project of any kind knows that you lose time at the beginning, not at the end. So with the SDGs as probably the most important global project for the next 15 years, it is important now to keep the momentum going. We've had the biggest summit in history last year with world leaders from 193 countries signing up to this. But it's a non-binding agenda. These goals are non-binding. So we have to make sure that the attention remains there, that the momentum remains there for countries to act across all these 17 goals and make the SDGs management tools in order to assess progress going forward.
There you have it. Dr. Kroll, congratulations on the exciting new project that we all look forward to reading the results of.
Thank you so much.